guys, what's going on? It's Ash here coming at you today in Raid Shadow Legends, a special early upload for you guys. We're going to go over all the new champions, some which look very, very good, to the surprise of nobody. They've been adding more and more very good champions to the game lately. We'll talk a little bit about what that means for power creep towards the end of today's episode. But first off, Yoshi the Drunkard fragment event. Thank God it's a fragment event. I am so sick of fusions, man. I love fragment events, right? To me, they feel more manageable even when they're more difficult ones. It looks like there's going to be plenty of ways to get fragments here. If you guys can take a look at all the events and also tournaments, hopefully you guys are able to go ahead and get your, get the fragments. There's 160 champion fragments in total. Of course, that is if you win all the leaderboard prizes as well. But it looks like if you guys can kind of make a mental note of which one of these you can compete in, or at least every day kind of make sure you're saving your energy to participate in an event or tournament that gives you these fragments. To me, that's really all I prioritize. I take a look and make sure that I'm using my auto attacks and using, arena battles, whatever. I'm saving them for the appropriate event. Same thing with artifact enhancement, common knowledge type stuff, guys, but make sure you're not, upgrading a bunch of artifacts until March 18th through the 29th. That way you guys can make sure you get your Yoshi fragments. So sorry, I'm just logging in here, all the pop-ups. Let's take a quick look at not just Yoshi, but all the new champions in Shadowkin. So first of all, Shadowkin is a part of the Nyrison Union. You forget that these unions even exist right now. There's really not much they do with these, but the Nyrison Union, the Dwarves, and now the Shadowkin, two more factions coming, God knows when, by the end of 2025, hopefully. So Shadowkin is here. I like the banner image on these champions, and as you guys can see, we have 3 legendaries, we have 4 epics, we have 3 rares and 2 uncommons. Let's take a quick look at all of these champions and see who we like the best, see who I think are real game changers, starting with Jintoro. Jintoro is a game changer, man. Let me just start out by saying that. He is a very cool looking legendary champion. Already with 1 review in there. One lucky person has their hands already on Jintoro. So on the A1, grants an extra turn if the attack kills an enemy. On the 8, and look at his base stats here, 1500, 1487. Something tells me he has pretty good multipliers, just a guess. 102 as well on his speed. On his A2, attacks 1 enemy on 3-turn cooldown, steals 100% of the turn meter. If they're immune to turn meter reduction effects, which is really cool, decreases the cooldown of Oni's Rage by 1 turn. What is Oni's Rage? It's his A3. It's already on a 3-turn cooldown. Attacks 1 enemy, decrease defense, and weaken for 2 turns. Will attack 5 times instead of 1 on every 4th use of this skill against the same target in 1 round. So interesting, in 1 round being the, the exception to that. It doesn't stack across rounds, but it doesn't really matter. For Clan Boss, this dude seems like a beast. I mean, think about it. Decrease defense and weaken, will attack 5 times instead of 1 on every 4th use of the skill, and it's being reduced against Clan Boss because the Clan Boss is immune to turn meter reduction effects. Man, it seems like it could be a beast Clan Boss and really cool in dungeons as well. Vigorous is his passive. All turn meter fill effects are increased by 50% when used on this champion. Really cool, man. I gotta hand it to Plarium here. Not only do all these champions look really cool, attack in all battles by 29% as well. Not only do these champions look super cool. I mean, look at that sword, man. Armor. I mean, the whole aesthetic on this dude is just boss status, right? But they somehow seem to be able to find ways to craft these kits. They're way more complex than they were 2 years ago, right? Let's face it. These kits, decreases cooldowns, immune to turn meter, not immune to turn meter, passives that affect their turn meter, a lot more into these champions, a lot more kind of complex, I guess, as a whole than we're used to last year in 2020 and the year before that in 2019 in Raid Shadow Legends. But I like that. Give us something new. That could easily be a big complaint that we have right now, but it seems like all of these champions bring something new to the table. Even if they're not game-changing, they're unique enough to give us justification to build some of these champions, especially the legendaries, because when you pull a legendary, you want to build it, you know? So Yoshi the Drunkard, he is the fusion champion, the big fella. He is kind of fast, 103 for being a big fella, 19k, 1299, and 969 on the HP attack and defense. Okay. On his A1, he has a stun. That is a 40% chance to win booked. On his A2, we're seeing a lot of books on this guy, unfortunately. It seems like all the fragments and fusions do usually tend to have a lot of books. Flaming Spirits is A2 on a 2-turn cooldown when booked. Attacks 2 times at random, 100% chance when booked, replacing decreased accuracy and HP burn debuff for 2 turns. He has Force Affinity as well, so I can see using him, well, in quite a few areas, especially in Doom Tower, even Nether Spider maybe as kind of a Drexstar type champion. Anyway, reading on his kit here, increase attack and increase accuracy buff on all allies for 2 turns on a 3-turn cooldown. Also has a 75% chance when booked of placing True Fear debuff on all allies on all allies. That would suck. On all enemies for 1 turn. Again, 75% True Fear on all enemies for 1 turn. A great CC ability in his kit. And then has a 75% chance or 100 on enemies under increased attack buffs. So again, that's a 100% chance of placing True Fear on enemies against or in increased attack buffs, which is great for the arena. An anti-arbiter champion for the arena, right? Because she's going to be starting off every round with the increased attack. Yoshi comes in, the crazy drunkard Shadowkin champion, and boom, hits them all with a True Fear. They lose their first turn. It's a way that you can go second against Arbiter teams, provided Yoshi is fast enough. So what is his passive here? Fills the champion's turn meter by 4% each time an enemy receives a buff. Again, cutting in line, right? Or at least boosting to the speed of the enemy team. Arbiters, you know, she's landing a bunch of increased attacks that boosts his speed up, I guess 20 or 24, that'd be beast mode. 16% just on that very first buff, right? So fills his champion's turn meter by 16% on 4 increased attacks. And then to me, that should be enough to boost him, hopefully to go second, provided he's fast enough, and then boom, land all those True Fears, while placing increased attack and increased accuracy on all of your allies. Then your debuffer comes in, boom, Madam Ceres, whoever, with the increased accuracy, there should be no issues landing the decreased defense, decreased attack. To me, I really love the synergy here. Yeah, I really like this ability. I think he's a very cool champion. I don't want to mislead you guys and say that he is, you know, S tier. I don't think he's S tier. I think he's a little niche. He's better than like Vergum Car and previous, you know, fusions and champions that we've had in the past. However, I think that for the arena, he'd be really fun. I don't know the multipliers on this dude yet. We do have access to the dev build now, content creators. However, I have not done it. I'm sure I'm going to do it in the future, but I just love, you guys may have noticed here on the channel, I've never shared anybody else's account other than my own, because there's something about me, it's my issue. I mean, I'm not saying this is a good thing, but I just love owning these champions myself, and as if they're NFTs or something. I love owning them, and I love experiencing them for a few days or something before I really cast judgment. So I'm not sure if a dev build will necessarily help, but I guess it would. I don't know. Let me know in the comments if you want to see me use the developer build and have access to these champions early. Genzin is another Shadowkin attack-based champion. Very, very high base attack, 1553, 100 speed. Seems like he's going to be a hard hitter again, a very cool-looking champion. On the A1, a 3-hitter. Each hit fills his champion's turn meter by 6. Really solid there on the A1. Giant Slayer on this dude as well with flowing cuts. I love the name. Seems like it probably has good multipliers for an A1. I don't know, 18% turn meter fill on the A1 is really solid. Attacks all enemies on the A2 on a 3-turn cooldown. Has a 75% chance, make it 100, replacing a decreased defense for 2 turns. Another 3-turn decreased defense. Each critical hit fills his turn meter again by 10%. So, I mean, we're talking 40 or 50% increased turn meter on his A2 as well. That's, again, coming off of the 6 per hit on the A1. Really solid, right? 40, 50, 18, and then the A3 attacks one enemy on a 3-turn cooldown. Will ignore unkillable. Will ignore shield buffs. Fills the champion's turn meter again by 30% there on his A3, and a 60% instead if the target has 50% HP or less after the attack. Also decreases the cooldown of Steel, Parting, and Fated Vengeance skills by 1 turn if this attack kills an enemy. And that is Steel, Parting on his A2, and Bushido here. Wait, Fated Vengeance is that skill. My bad. Okay, I was like, where's Fated Vengeance? You're on it, Ash. You're on it, bro. All right, Bushido, very cool too. Increases the champion's speed by 10, resistance by 50 if there are fewer champions on this champion's team than the number of enemies on the entire enemy team. So basically against Spider, I'm thinking, this effect always works when fighting bosses. Really cool. So he always has 10 speed and plus 50 resistance against bosses. I think this guy is really unique and really cool, man. I mean, he has an AoE decreased defense, turn meter on every skill. He seems like a turn meter god, dude. Like an offensive juggernaut turn meter god. Very, very cool champion. He might be my favorite. What about you guys? Who's your favorite of these 3 legendaries? Genzin is mine, I think. Yoshi or Jintoro. For me, unfortunately, it wouldn't be. Yoshi would be my 3rd. I think Genzin is probably my 1st. Jintoro's a close 2nd. And then Yoshi. All right, let's cover these 4 epics and try not to take 45 minutes in doing so, huh? Tagari the Frog. Well, he's cool aesthetically looking champion as well. I like the look, man. On the A1 has a decreased attack. On the A2, an AoE provoke. That is a 50%. It increases by 5% for each debuff on the enemy team. Okay, on a 3-turn cooldown. It's an AoE attack with the provoke, 50%, increase 5 for each debuff. Damage based on HP with a high base HP of 22k almost. On the A3, shield buff equal to 15% of this champion's max HP, and ally protect buff on all allies except this champion on a 3-turn cooldown. Also heals this champion by 25% of their max HP, and places a reflect damage buff on them for 3 turns on a 3-turn cooldown. He's always going to have reflect damage up. The heal increases by 2.5% for each poison debuff on the enemy team. This guy's a beast for clan boss, beast for dungeons. I'm telling you, I don't know if it's hit you guys yet, but this guy's really good. When attacked, has a 50% chance of placing a strong version of poison on the attacker for 2 turns, occurs once per hit. Dude, now he puts out some sick damage too. This guy seems like a clan boss stud. Like really, really good. And for dungeons with the provoke, why not? For clan boss, he's a great support champion, right? He's got a self-heal, an increased heal for poison on the enemy team, ally protect shield on all allies, all on a 3-turn cooldown, and then on top of that, he has the poisons on the clan boss, which synergizes well with the A3. For dungeons, for Doom Tower support, whatever, he has the provoke on top of it all on a 3-turn cooldown. I really like this champion. And again, the decreased attack on the A1 for clan boss at a 50% clip is really solid. Tagari the Frog, very, very good. I would say A tier, S tier champion for clan boss, certainly, and in other areas of the game as well. Sashi, well, very cool champion. Aesthetically pleasing, I must say. On the A1, base stats really quick, 102 speed, 1000 defense, 1200 attack, 14k on the HP. Attacks all enemies. I want to see the animations on this, what do you call this thing? Someone can tell me. Some master of weapons can tell me. Is it like nunchucks? Is it like Michelangelo's as a scythe? I don't know. Someone can tell me. My bad. I'm not knowing that. All right. Decreased accuracy on the A1. On the A2, attacks one enemy, has a decreased crit rate and a leech debuff for 2 turns. This is on a 2-turn cooldown on Heart Pierce. On the A3, increased attack buff on all allies for 2 turns, then attacks one enemy. Fills a turn meter of all allies by 20% if this attack is critical on a 3-turn cooldown. Passive, revives a random ally with 30% HP whenever this champion kills an enemy. Has a 50% chance of placing a fear debuff on all enemies for 1 turn whenever an ally is revived. False Death. And that is no cooldown on that passive as well. I don't know. For me, she seems... I want to see what kind of damage she puts out, but she seems pretty good, you know? She seems like a really good champion. With the Leech, with the Revival, with the increased attack, with the turn meter fill, with the decreased accuracy, and the Revival, yeah, she's bringing a lot to the kit. I hate to love every single one. Hate to gush over every single one of these champions, man. Chinaru is a different aesthetic for a champion. She's got the tats. She's all tatted up. I like the look on the A1. She has block buffs for 2 turns. Okay, 50% chance. On the A2, 3 times at random. Each hit has a 100% chance of placing a weaken debuff for 2 turns on a 3-turn cooldown. And then on the A3, removes all increased defense buffs on all enemies, then attacks all enemies. Decrease the cooldown of Lay Bare by 1 turn for each enemy killed by this skill. This is this ability. So decrease the cooldown by 1 turn for each enemy killed on a 3-turn cooldown. She doesn't seem as good as all the other champions that we've mentioned so far on paper, but look at that base attack, 1509. Something tells me she's doing this is a really hard-hitting AoE attack. I'm not 100% sure yet, but if it is, it could be really nasty to decrease that cooldown. If you kill 3 enemies, boom, you can go Lay Bare, Lay Bare, Lay Bare again and again and again and again. Very, very cool potential on this champion. Next up is going to be Oboro. Oboro, again, very cool aesthetic looking champion. I love what they've done to these champions. Very cool looking. An attack-based champion with 15, 14, 54, 101 base speed, low defense. On the A1, attacks 1 enemy with a decreased defense. Attack all enemies instead if the target is under 4 or more debuffs. Okay. So that's pretty cool. You can use it against bosses, obviously against like Ice Golem type bosses. You can use it against, I guess if you have a really strong debuffer squad, just she'll be doing AoEs all the time on the A1, right? Put her with like Contra. I'm just thinking of like a champion that throws out like 1,000,000 debuffs. Sounds pretty cool. On the A2, Mystic Smoke attacks 1 enemy 2 times. Second hit has a 75% chance, make it 100 when booked, of transferring all debuffs from this champion to the target. The first hit has a 100% chance of stealing all buffs from the target when attacking under Veil or Perfect Veil. On the A3, increased crit rate and increased crit damage on this champion for 2 turns, then attacks 1 enemy. Perfect Veil on this buff champion for 2 turns if the attack is critical. That's on a 3-turn cooldown. Okay. Passive, revive on death buff on this champion for 3 turns whenever they receive a Veil or Perfect Veil. So this actually procs also a revive on death. Interesting. Attack and dungeons by 33%. So Oboro being a void to me, maybe a little underwhelming. We need to see the multipliers, but cool, but not necessarily a game changer for me. Life Taker, a rare champion, another cool kind of that weapon that I don't know what it is, okay? On the A1, we have heal reduction. On the A2, a 3-time hitter with decreased speed on the 3rd hit. Each has a 50% chance of decreasing the target's turn meter by 10%. 3rd hit, 50% chance of decreased speed. On a 3-turn cooldown, Diamond Body, Veil buff on this champion for 1 turn and a reflect damage buff on this champion for 2 turns. Don't really like her. Blood Mask on the A1. This is, by the way, HP-based champion with almost 20k HP, very slow. On the A1, attacks 1 enemy, 35% chance, make it 45, decreasing the target's turn meter by 10%, okay? Attacks 1 enemy, has a 75% chance of placing a decreased speed debuff for 2 turns. Weak version of decreased speed, not interested. On the A3, attacks 1 enemy, stun, 3-turn cooldown. I don't like him. I don't like him. Surprise. Oh, this guy looks really cool. Fanatic. Wow. I love the head tick he's got going on there. Anyway, support champion. 14, 1,000, 1,097 on his base stats. Attacks 1 enemy. Has a 40% chance of placing a decreased defense debuff for 2 turns. Has a 40% chance of placing a decreased defense debuff instead if the target is under 2 or more debuffs. Oh, okay, my bad. So it's a small version, weak version. Okay, whatever. On the A2, attacks 1 enemy. 100% chance of transferring 2 random debuffs from the target, whatever. And then on the 4-turn cooldown, increase attack buff on all allies for 2 turns and removes 1 random debuff from each That's it? That's it? Dude, he looks so cool. I wanted him to be so good. And boy, does that not impress me, that kid, at all. Like, really weak for a Void, no? Infiltrator. Really cool looking champion. He's an uncommon here, by the way. On the A1, attacks 1 enemy. On the A2, attacks 1 enemy 2 times. Each has a 50% chance of placing a 2.5 poison debuff for 2 turns on a 2-turn cooldown. Man, I mean, if there were strong versions of poison, I would say, yeah, maybe you could use him for a clan boss, but he's pretty much unusable to me, at least. I definitely wouldn't build him even on my free-to-play account. Conscript, and again, an uncommon champion. On the A1, attacks 1 enemy 2 times. On the A2, attacks 1 enemy. 50% chance of placing a weak version of Weaken on a 2-turn cooldown. Nah, it doesn't do it for me. And that's all we have, guys. I guess if you had all these champions, you'd have enough to beat level 21 Faction Wars of Shadowkin if you had all the champions, right? Huge if there. I did mention at the end of this video, this is not edited, by the way, this video, so just straight uploading the raw footage, no cuts here. So I apologize if I misspoke on any of the champions. I think that I did a pretty thorough job, though, reviewing them. I did want to talk again about power creep. Tomorrow I'm going to upload a video talking about epic champions outside of Shadowkin. It didn't include the new faction that I am auto upgrading. And for me, that barrier of champions that I am auto upgrading, like as long as I pull them, I'm going to upgrade, I'm going to rank them up. That pool gets smaller and smaller only because, or I should say, you know, new champions are added and old champions are removed because of power creep. This is something that Plarium is doing a good and a bad job of, depending on how you look at it, if you're an optimist or a pessimist when you're looking at this, because ultimately, they keep throwing new, better champions. I mean, these epics were really, really good. You know, they really were. They're throwing better options at us to try to get us to spend more, try to get us to spend more time, money, resources, everything into upgrading and prioritizing these new champions. And what it's doing is diluting the pool of champions altogether, right? Some of the best champions from 2 years ago are no longer as good. Some of them are still really good. And some of them are still serviceable, right? Like, you don't need to upgrade sometimes. Sometimes your team is solid, right? But I think it's human nature psychologically. We always want to get a little bit better, incrementally better, and just understand. I'm not saying that's good or bad because it's exciting to have new champions. It would really suck if they introduced a bunch of crap champions to the game. However, just be cognizant. My only kind of word of caution is be cognizant not to overreact. These champions, a lot of them looked really good, but make sure you're always doing that 3-prong evaluation on champions that you invest in. How much better is this champion versus what I have right now, the value over replacement? Will this champion last me until the end game? The long-term sustainability, viability of these champions. And then third is the versatility of these champions. In how many different areas of the game am I going to be using this champion once I upgrade them, once I invest in them? If the answers are not that great on any of those 3 responses, I would probably not invest. I'd probably pass, and that means passing even on some of these brand new, really cool champions because of power creep, guys. Make sure that there's still a significant value over replacement. You can ride them until the end game, and of course, they're versatile. You can use them in more than one area. So guys, there's exceptions to every rule, but that's kind of generally the 3 things that I look at when choosing which champion to upgrade next. I hope you enjoyed this video. Thank you so much for watching all the way till the end, and as always, take care, guys.